I took some notes on this, but lost them. As I mentioned, my first trip here was about pursuing interest in virtual reality. And that's one of those things that's taken a long time to take off. And we may see it happening in the augmented reality part of it that we're going to hear about next. If it does happen and when it does happen, I think Robert Rice is certainly going to be not only in the center of it, but instrumental. He is the CEO of Neogents and has been a serial entrepreneur in very far future applications of technology for a long time. Was involved in 1992, 1993, the first converting the first PC game to virtual reality. He was the author of MMO Evolution, so he's been involved in gaming and VR, and is now putting together what he has been instrumental in building for the last 20 years into what we're going to see next for the next 20 years. So augmented reality has been mentioned by practically every speaker. We've saved the best for last. If you really want to see what's happening in the future, Robert Rice.
Thank you, Howard. Hello, everybody. I wanted to thank everybody for having me today, and I want to say that it's been a little intimidating being the last guy after the crowd of speakers we've had so far. It's certainly an honor to be here. And I'm glad I edited my slides this morning because some of them I was going to use that I got beaten to. So anyway, okay, the future is calling, and we should probably answer the phone. But before I get to the good stuff, I want to talk about this. Mobile is dead. Okay. Some people believe that mobile is dead, or it's dying, or it's on its last legs. You know, once the iPhone came out, oh, what can we do now? It's been done. Now the common man can write applications and make money and do things. So platforms, no big deal. And now we got the Google Androids coming out. So venture capitalists are like, oh, well, there's nothing left to do, so we're going to pull away from mobile. There's move on to other things. I think that they're wrong, but it makes a great line. Mobile is dead. However, actually, I'll take that back. I'll assert that mobile is dead, and it has to be brought back to life, but in a completely different way. Mobile is still pretty much this: me talking to somebody else. It's a communications device. It's usually one person to one person. The last time it was a one-to-many, it was a party line, and I got charged a lot of money for it. But still, at the end of the day, it's one person to one person over distance and effectively tin cans. And of course now, but the mobile device, the phone has been evolving lately, and now it's become a mobile internet device, so it does more things than just this. But the mobile device, or the cell phone as we have today, is a dinosaur. It's still based on the old concepts of me calling you, you calling somebody else, and even some of the flash mob stuff. It's not necessarily this whole giant thing. It's somebody has to start it, and then it gets spread out from node to node to point to point to point, and so on and so forth. But the new mobile, or the mobile internet devices I'll be talking about, and I'll get to the cool augmented reality stuff shortly, is effectively a meteor. It's going to come down and hit and make a great big mess, and everything that we think we know about mobile or the internet or communications or social media is all going to go right out the window. And real quick, I kind of like this slide. Mobile, or the new mobile, has the ability to be the bridge between the past and things that we're used to and the future, or things that we want or that we've been dreaming about. I, for one, have been ranting the last couple days about flying cars. I was promised flying cars and a vacation on the moon 10 years ago, and I still don't have it. But mobile may not get me to the moon, but it can be that bridge to all the really cool things that we want. So real quickly, this is my little evolution of I should just look over here. Evolution of hardware. So on one hand, we've got the rotary phone and the original PC. And of course, the PC kind of got cooler. We had this giant, cellular phone. And I remember the days where if you had one of those, you were like really cool. And now I wouldn't be caught dead with one. And then, of course, move on to the laptop and the flip phone. And now there's been this kind of convergence that's been started with, like, the iPhone. It may not be the first, but it's certainly the first to have mass user adoption and commercialization. So what's the next step? The next step is we have to go away from this, or looking down, or interacting this way. We have to make it immersive. It has to be more about your environment around you, not just another way to access the internet. Things are changing, and I think the glasses are going to kind of be the next step. Of course, they can't look goofy, though. They have to be stylish, they have to be high resolution, they have to be wireless, blah, blah, blah. We're getting there, but we're not quite there yet. So let me start getting into my AR pitch here. If you look at the evolution of media, it started off when somebody figured out how to do the alphabet, and then from there we went to print, and then the radio, and television, the internet, the World Wide Web, and each of these things has had a significant impact on our culture and our society, on our industry, and how we go about doing things and communicating in our lifestyle. And augmented reality, if it's done properly, has the ability to join this pantheon of other cool things. And if it's done wrong or improperly, it'll fade away as another novelty technology. If you're part of the older crowd, you remember when virtual reality first came out, and everybody was having heart attacks over how cool and awesome that was. And then Hollywood got a hold of it and was Lawnmower Man. And then the first time I actually got my hands on it was this huge giant thing that stuck on my head. It gave me a headache, and I was like, wow, where's the cool Lawnmower Man stuff? And then because of all of that, VR got a really bad name and reputation and kind of got shoveled away. I mean, the potential is still there for that technology, but it got labeled as novelty. It wasn't practically used, and it was too early and too ahead of its time. Right now, augmented reality faces that risk, and it's probably the biggest risk of the technology. But it comes down on our shoulders to make sure we do it right, and we think about it, and we don't rush into things too quickly. So while mobile may be dead, and I like to rant and be critical about everybody and everything that's out there, I think that we're nearing a tipping point in technology and in media and in culture and society. We're on the verge of a whole nother revolution and renaissance and change over everything. And as terrible as the economies are, and the climate and everything else, there's a lot of people out there with a hunger and a desire to innovate, to be visionaries, to create something new, to advance, to push, to make more efficient, to optimize, and to go on and on. The dreamers are still out there, and it's up to our job as developers or venture capitalists or media moguls, whatever, to help facilitate and to inspire and innovate and give tools for. How many people here have seen Deno Coil? Okay, a whole lot. You should go see it if you're interested. So augmented reality, there's a number of different ways we can talk about this, but one of the cool things is the ability to obviously blend the virtual and the real. And I'll show you some of the examples in a few minutes. This one here is kind of, it's from this Japanese animation, but it's like, can you imagine if you could access YouTube this way? How kind of cool that would be. But imagine if you could grab one of those and literally throw it to somebody else in the crowd, and then it's now in their inventory or it pops up in front of them. So augmented reality has one of the other things it can do is just really change how we even transfer information back and forth, or how we experience media. I want to get away from the idea of the flat, two-dimensional screen. Okay, so I'm going to change tracks here again. This is from General Electric. This came out earlier at the beginning of the year, and it's probably the one thing that's most responsible for the mass market exposure to what augmented reality is. Most people still don't understand it, but they've seen this. And if you go to YouTube and type in augmented reality or General Electric, you'll see thousands of videos of people printing this out, holding it up in front of the screen, and smiling goofily at their computer, going, hey, look at me. And it stopped. This is a Hewlett-Packard commercial that has absolutely nothing to do with augmented reality at all, but it's a perfect example of what we're looking at that we could have in our hands tangibly in 5 years or maybe 10 years or somewhere in between. Again, we're changing the whole experience of how you deal with media. No more keyboards, no more monitors, no more hardware. I mean, if you take an iPhone and you strip out the monitor, or you take another device to strip out the keyboard and all that stuff, you end up with a very, very, very tiny little thing that could eventually become a belt buckle or a watch or some other type of wearable device that's still equally powerful. And of course, when you start adding in the glasses, you're not looking through something anymore. It becomes much more immersive and personal. And of course, things get really fun and interesting when we start extrapolating, well, what can we do if we're not reliant on markers anymore? Or what if we put on a pair of glasses or Ray-Bans or Oakleys, and suddenly, we're seeing virtual creatures around us, or maybe if the 5 people on the live stream or, have avatars here walking around a room that we can interact with and see. Or, Pokemon 5.0. Or this could be SpongeBob or Teletubbies, popping out of your television, interacting with your kids. Augmented reality is much more than just the video on top of 3D on top of a video, though, and I'll get to that in a minute. So I've tried categorizing augmented reality in a couple of different levels, and some other people have already expanded on those, but these are the 3 main ones. In the upper left is basically marker-based, and you've probably seen this, and you just saw the General Electric one a minute ago. So you have a marker which effectively says what content to show and where to show it. And then the second one on the other side is Wikitude. It's not marker-based and it's mobile, which changes the chemistry kind of bit. And then the third example is obviously you put on a cool pair of shades and everybody thinks you're awesome and throws money at you. But augmented reality becomes immersive, and when it becomes immersive, it's so much more intuitive or seamless. I mean, I would really like it if I had on a pair of glasses and all of my notes were just kind of scrolling up the side, because then I could come across as super intelligent, like I had a really cool speech and stuff. Anyway, moving on. The world is not flat. Surprise. Why is all of our media flat? It's flat on the TV, it's flat in the monitor, it's flat in a web page, it's flat in my mobile phone, it's flat in a poster, it's flat in the screen. We don't live in a two-dimensional world. Why does, we have these huge, massive industries built around media, and we're all still thinking flat? We need to break out of that mentality and start looking at, what is media, and how do we create it or present it or interact with it in more than just 2 dimensions? And so I like to categorize things and make lists, and I tried avoiding doing a lot of bullets with this, but I had to do this one because I can't keep them straight in my head. So passive media is basically media that just sits there. It's a poster, it's a picture, it's an image. Active media does something. Television is active media. You turn it on and it flashes pixels at you. Interactive media is something that you can interact with. Now it's like when you could argue that, well, I interact with TVs by changing the channel. But I think interactive media is more like like a game or something, where I do something and it responds, but it responds differently depending on what I'm doing. Dynamic media is kind of like interactive in that I can affect and change something, except with dynamic media, it becomes a persistent change. So instead of me playing a game and it going back and forth, dynamic media is basically me creating something or me changing the nature of something. So media should not have to be static and just the same all the time. We should be able to go in and change and influence and affect and modify. And of course, meta is my catch-all for anything else I couldn't think of. But it also means media or information that's created kind of on the fly. So if we had, I don't know, something that measured my body temperature as I got nervous or not nervous speaking in front of all these people, and we had a pretty little 3D thing floating in space here that changed shape or texture or color depending on how I feel or how tired I am or what slide I'm on, that would be meta media, something that changes and is never necessarily the same thing, but is also influenced by external conditions. So getting back to augmented reality and the wonderful mobile 2.0 or 5.0, a lot of people, when you initially say augmented reality, they immediately think, oh, cool, 3D graphics on a video screen. And we need to think beyond that if we're going to take advantage of the true potential of what augmented reality is. And it needs to answer these questions. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? Who is around me? What is around me? And all these things have to come together. It has to be geospatial, it has to be locative, it has to be contextual, and it has to be relevant. I'm Robert, I'm here, I'm on stage, I'm the speaker, I'm giving this presentation. You're sitting there, you're sitting there, you're sitting there. You have this background, you have this background. All of this stuff needs to be kind of mashed together to make augmented reality and the next version of mobile relevant and useful. We can't just stop and say, oh, cool, here's a little 3D thing and I'm going to blow on the microphone and it's going to change. It has to be much more than that. Once we start answering these questions, then whole worlds of opportunity open up. And I want to highlight a point here about the difference between a mobile device and dealing with the internet. With the internet, everything is anonymous. It doesn't matter, which computer you're sitting down at, which browser you're at, or which website you're at. It's kind of anonymous. And that also, talking about the spam problem we had earlier, that contributes to that. And there's only so much you can know about your end user. It's really, when you're trying to study, demographics and whatnot, the information you're getting is really more about the computer, not so much about the user, because you don't really know if it's the father, the son, the daughter, the coworker, or whatever. With a mobile device, the chemistry kind of changes fundamentally. I know now that this is my phone, it belongs to me, these are my habits, and I may let you borrow my phone to make a phone call, but I'm not going to let you borrow it for a week. That phone is inherently mine. And because of that, and I know that this phone is mine, I'm responsible for things that I type or things that I say. So one of the ways that we can kind of deal with the spam issue is forcing a little bit of accountability. You can't quite do that with the PC, but knowing that identity automatically with the mobile helps kind of change that problem. This is you. Right now, when we talk about sales or marketing or demographics, it's all about how much can I sell, and how many products can I ship, and my users or my social community are effectively credit card numbers. How many of you here can really know who your user is or who your end user, your customer is? You think about them in terms of credit card numbers, in terms of sales, street addresses, what they bought last time, what's in their shopping cart. It's never really about who they are, what their hobbies are, what they like. Do they watch Lost, or do they prefer some other show or whatever? But when we take mobile to the next level, it's going to become much more important for you to know more about the individual user and the individual customer. We can't get away with looking at users as just numbers anymore. Evolution. Evolution in technology leads to a revolution in industry and media, which leads to a renaissance. We're at the point now where so much is changing that's being disruptive. New technologies, faster technologies, smaller technologies, more efficient, clean and green and whatever, that we're on the verge of getting into another whole renaissance, unless we do it the wrong way. Okay, you're all supposed to laugh, but that's okay. I feel like that sometimes, really. Okay, so in getting to this wonderful, bright future that I'm desperate for, because I really want to get that flying car, it's going to be a labyrinth. Nobody really knows what's going to happen next. We can make a lot of educated guesses, but we're going to end up stumbling along. And one of the risks we have are it's going to be done the wrong way. One of the phrases I like to use a lot is the right idea, wrong implementation. And I think while augmented reality risks becoming another novelty technology, it can get really bad. When you sit down and start studying what venture capitalists are saying or what large companies are saying or doing, you kind of get the idea that the lights are on but nobody's home. All of the wrong people have all of the right money, and we end up getting crazy stuff. This is actually real. Okay, so the point here is a completely immersive experience. Right idea, right? I'm all about immersion. I think their implementation is a little to be desired. But they have the money to build and implement, and it's something we have to try for. And it can also get worse. This is why I don't think markers are suitable for mobile. You would never catch me wearing one on my forehead either. But markers, I should point out, are very critical and very important, at least in the early stages of augmented reality now, because it's accessible, it's easy to use, there's tools out there for it, and it actually has a lot of good uses. But as the technology and the industry develops and advances, we need to look at other things, and I certainly want to avoid that. At the end of the day, this is the last thing that we want. We have a responsibility as innovators and designers to think a little bit ahead of the game and try to figure out, what can go wrong, and try to avoid that. As bad as that looks, it's also kind of cool. I've always wanted to kind of just plug in and kind of tune in. I had a good time putting together these slides. We tend to think inside of the box, and a lot of times we talk about thinking outside of the box. But at the end of the day, we're all still wearing boxes. So what I try to do is encourage people to not only think outside of the box, but also reinvent the box. Why are we stuck with the whole box paradigm to begin with? If you're a physics student, you'll probably get this joke. I don't think Schrodinger had a cat. I believe he had a dog. Anyway, that's my little box joke. Okay. The other thing is silos. Almost everything we do is broken up into silos. We talk about this company, this company, this company, or we talk about virtual reality, augmented reality simulations, massively multi-user online role-playing games, virtual worlds. The list just goes on and on. But nobody's realizing that a lot of these technologies are similar, or they have certain elements or components that are conducive to working with each other. But we're all broken down into these little specific categories. Probably the easiest example is the difference between virtual worlds and MMORPGs. The virtual worlds seem to be stuck in the mid-90s, but they kind of got the whole social thing right. And the MMOs have the gameplay down, and they have the graphics down. But now they're starting to strip out all of the social elements, making it more like a single-player adventure that other people happen to be in. So to really move forward, we have to get rid of the box, think about things differently, knock down the silos, and try to integrate and try to cross-pollinate interdisciplinary teams, and kind of mix things up a bit. The other point I want to make with this slide too is when we talk about developing these new technologies and stuff and moving forward in the future, it's easy to look at, well, we've done it this way in the past, and we've done this really well, and this is good, and so on and so forth. But I think that we're kind of hit this block where in the last decade or so, innovation's kind of slowed down. The most exciting thing has been the Facebook widget, no flying cars. But we kind of have to break out of that and kind of get back to the basics and look at things from a different perspective, and mix them up a little bit. So anyway, my point was that I think we've hit a wall, and to get past that wall, we have to start mixing and matching and taking the best of specific areas or specific types of technologies and mixing them together. Somebody mentioned earlier a hybrid is good, and anyway, hybrid is the way to go. So mix and match. There's actually a funny story to this slide here. I changed my slides around last night, and I was kind of polishing them off this morning, and I was like, I got room for one more in this particular spot, and I can't think of one, and I did, and I was like all excited, and I wanted to edit what the sign said, but I've got a new laptop, and it has MS Paint on it, and I was like, okay, screw this, it's going in the way it is. So Midvale School for Venture Capitalists. I'm not going to get any venture deals in a long time. I can feel it already. But this is pretty much the case. There's a lot of smart money out there that's being invested in very bad ways. Again, at the beginning, I said mobile is dead. Not everybody thinks that way, but that's certainly beginning to become a new thing. Or even as one of the other speakers mentioned, the amount of money going into mobile or mobile advertising is just a tiny little fraction. People are afraid of change. They're afraid to experiment. They're afraid to innovate, and they're afraid to test the waters with new technology. Even though they've mastered other areas and they have lots and lots of money. If we could just shift who has the money right now, the whole world would change in a matter of no time. I honestly can't remember what this slide was for. Thank you. This one either? No, I'm just joking. Okay, so augmented reality. What is it? How do we build this really cool, wonderful thing? What are the elements? Obviously we've got the cool glasses and the mobile device. The mobile device is critical because I really don't want to wear huge headwear on my head. When the mobile device gets to the point where it can clip to your belt or become a belt buckle or a watch, already today, your iPhone can handle real-time 3D games. And I think it was Ericsson says that by was it 2012 or 2014, their device is going to have a 20 megapixel camera with HD streaming, 100 megabit connection. These are just insane sort of things that we'll be able to tap into. But there's a lot of other elements that are going to be important as well. What do I know about the world around me? I need to be able to tap into things and understand that. And this is where RFIDs can come in handy, saying, well, this chair is, does this or does that, or my refrigerator is, going a little cold. Or, we need to have a way to do visual tracking. We need to understand not only where I am and what my orientation is, but also what exactly am I looking at. We need ways to deal with, artificially intelligent, 3D creatures that act as, intelligent agents that go out and do your homework for you or pick up chicks. It's the new dog, right? But anyway, so there's a lot of elements and a lot of components, and it's going to be a while before somebody stitches them all together in the right way, and we'll be bumping along the way. But again, at the end of the day, we have to think ahead and kind of, let's get back to basics. Whip out some science fiction and think about things. And that's just where I get most of my ideas. And work backwards from there. And we need to try to roadmap this stuff out and go about it the right way. Otherwise, again, we'll end up as a novelty technology. This is how much we have done so far. It's a little depressing, but at least it's a known thing. I mean, we've come a long way in the last 10 or 15 years as far as technology goes, and a lot of the pieces are there. I mean, again, I think at this point, augmented reality, or at least a big cool platform play, I'd say it's probably 70 or 80% done. It just needs to be brought together and melded and mixed in the right way, and then some other cool innovations need to happen. If you want to talk about how do we make money out of all this, I think that for the next period of time, there's going to be an emphasis on marker-based technologies or the mobile as a lens, and that's good. But once those wearable displays come out that are really cool, and catchy and high resolution, everything is going to change because that's what makes it personal and immersive and immediate. So if we all just kind of sit around and wait, the glasses will come out, there won't be anything to do with them, nobody will buy them, and we'll have missed an opportunity to change the world. So right now we have to start thinking ahead, and we have to start creating and experimenting and testing and just getting out there. If we do that, by the time the glasses come out, we'll have an installed base of something tangible that we can just jump on and all become billionaires. These are some early examples of both real-world prototypes and some conceptual work. There's at least 4 or 5 companies that are pushing hard for wearable displays. And the trick is the lenses have to be transparent. The last thing I want to do is have the old LCDs that block my vision because I don't want to get hit by a car in the street. So transparent lenses are a must, and they got to be lightweight. And of course, you can't look like a nerd. I'm very, very sensitive about that. I'm just joking. Not really. Okay, so smart cities. Again, this is more than just about the glasses or just about the mobile device or just about really cool things you can do with graphics. There's a lot of work and effort going on right now with a lot of companies to make things smarter, more powerful, and more efficient, and more green and more clean. And we're reaching the point rapidly where the cities and towns around us will become smart. We'll be able to tap into all of this data about our surroundings. Where do I need to go next? Where are the water mains buried? How much electricity am I using? Where are my friends at? How much gas is my car using? So in the broader scope of augmented reality and mobile, we need to be paying attention to what's going on in other industry sectors so we can take advantage of it. All these guys are saying, oh, let's just all this money into clean cities. But nobody's really thinking about the whole presentation layer. It's one thing to send me something in the mail that says, oh, you've used 150 kilowatts on your laptop this week. But I would really like to have a floating pie chart over my refrigerator or my microwave or something that is a little more intuitive and lets me know exactly where my money's going or where geez, my son's been using all the electricity. I want to come back on that. Where are we going to make the money from? It's going to be right here. I'm not quite sure which one goes with which pie chart because things are going to change over time. One may be the first big money maker, but things will shift as the technology develops, as we make more applications and more programs and so on and so forth. So microtransaction, augmented virtual goods, advertising, and then some other thing that we haven't thought of yet. But those are going to be the early money makers, and we should all be thinking about how do we do that, how we implement it, but also how do we do it differently. Just because it's been done before or has been successful before with other models does not mean it's going to be successful with augmented reality. I heard there was a conference last year where somebody, I think it was the Sekai camera guys, were showing off their camera, and they were asked the question, how are people going to convert their web pages to augmented reality? And when you think about that, it's actually a very telling question, but it was also a not very smart one. We don't want to convert web pages to augmented reality. It makes no sense. You might as well ask me how I can convert my bathtub into a still. Oh wait, no, never mind. So it's just we don't want to go there. The augmented reality is something completely new and different and separate. It's not like the internet where servers talk to servers, and it's not like the web where web pages talk to other web pages and all hyperlinked. It's going to be different. It gets more towards the whole idea of the Internet of Things, or sentient objects, or geospatial. All of these other cool buzzwords are going to come together and create something entirely new. And it's our opportunity to form that and push it. You guys are supposed to laugh at this one too. So as part of all this, the actual population is going to be very important. We can't very well put an RFID tag in every object on the planet and then go in and code and whatever. But the things that do have tags, they need to know. They're not going to know. You can't put an RFID tag on my laptop and have it automatically know it's a laptop. It has to be told, "Hi, I'm attached to a laptop." Or if we're talking about visual tracking or some other methods, somebody's got to go around and start tagging everything. That's going to be a real pain in the neck to do and have to do backwards. So as you guys are creating new applications, start adding in tagging now and try to think about how it might be used or leveraged later on. So we all don't have to go back and re-tag 5 years worth of Flickr photos because somebody decided to change a symbol somewhere. So here's a real quick summary. The future of mobile is not about the phone. It's about the mobile device itself. It used to be a cell phone, then it was a cell phone that did cool things. Now it's something that does cool things that also makes phone calls. It's a slight perception shift, but it's very important. The mobile phone can kill dinosaurs if you throw it hard enough. Augmented reality will change everything if it's done properly. If it's not, again, it's just going to pass away and you guys be like, "Oh, remember that guy last year?" Customers are not credit card numbers. We need to change the way we think about customers and how we go about talking to them and communicating with them. And of course, destroy all silos and never leave your cats unattended. The future literally is the next exit. We're about a couple kilometers off, and it's up to us to either miss it entirely and have to turn around, or be smart about it and kind of go there. And I'm opening it up for questions.
Thank you. You have a question, Hank?
Okay, so one question that I'm very interested in is what is the role of the mobile operator in augmented reality, or is it going to go around them?
That really depends. I think as things are now, the mobile operator is going to go the way of the dinosaur. Okay, well, somebody like that. I mean, look at if my broadband connection or my DSL connection. I don't think about who I'm paying for DSL or for internet or broadband until I have to pay them. Beyond that, I don't care. I don't know who I'm connected to on my mobile device when I'm, skipping Wi-Fi networks, whatever. And I certainly, don't care when I'm at home as long as they're not throttling my BitTorrent downloads. So beyond that, the mobile operators, they have a choice. They can get in the bandwagon right now and throw as much money as they can at as many entrepreneurs and innovators and garages as possible, and they have to embrace this wholeheartedly. Otherwise, somebody's going to come out with some kind of platform that's going to be operator independent, and that'll be it. They might still try to hit you up for SMS messages, and I'll be like, okay, fine. Here's my message right now, and I've just thrown a 3D object across the room, and it turns into a plane and flies to LA and lands in somebody's lap, and oh, there was my SMS. So you mobile guys that are here, come give me money, or distribute it evenly among the audience. And that's it.
Thanks, Howard, for borrowing me your jacket. I was really chilly. So, got quite some questions through Twitter. First one through Bokhout. Where are you? Upstairs. Good. It's probably a short question with a short answer. With all personal info and specs moving to the cloud, a mobile is not personal anymore, is it?
The cloud is a lie, the cake is real. Okay. Wow, that's a good question. I think there's a shift going on. If you're over the age of, say, 18, or maybe even older than that, privacy is very important. If you're the younger crowd set, or you're still in high school or whatever, you probably don't care, and you're wide open about everything you do and when you do it, and whatever. So is older developers, and actually, this really isn't gray. I just had a powdered donut this morning. We have to be cognizant of that. So there's a shift happening about privacy and how we deal with information. As developers, we have a responsibility to protect the end user, but at the same time, we have to be aware that things are changing and we don't quite know how it's going to turn out. So there's going to be privacy and there's going to be privacy and then privacy. It's the best I can come up with.
Okay, another question from Wendy HK again. Are you still sitting in the corner over there? Where are you? Oh, over there. Is the Sixth Sense they're developing at MIT Media Lab going in the direction you're envisioning?
No.
Or can they do better?
Yeah. I really hate to make fun of MIT. I think that's a case of the right idea, wrong implementation. If you look at what they have, it's basically a web camera with a projector, and it does a lot of different things. And one of the cool things and smart things it does is it tracks fingers, and I've got a different way to do interfaces. So that's important and that's good. Where I just cringe and want to go hide in a hole is the concept of the projector. Mostly because it could blind somebody if you lean back a little bit, or if I've tagged my best friend with owes me $50, or or this person I hate them or whatever. Now we're suddenly I don't necessarily want all you guys to see that. But if I'm projecting it on the wall, that's suddenly an issue. And then if we're all at a party and 5 or 6 people are talking to 1 or 2 other people, there's going to be projecting and keywords and hashtags and stuff flying around everywhere. It's not a good idea. We got to get away from the idea of projecting onto something or the idea of flat surfaces. And when you start thinking again more about even holding up a device and looking through it, or putting on glasses and getting that immersive thing, that opens the door and allows us to be creative and innovative with stuff and get away from the whole 2-dimensional thing. So, to answer the question, I think half of what they're doing is good and the other half is crazy backwards.
Okay, question by Drago Della Qua. Nice name, where are you? Okay, over there in the corner. How do we educate the VCs so that they give the right money to the right ideas so we get the right implementations?
Wow, I'm really cutting my own throat here. I think that at this point, the only way to get VC money is to live in Los Angeles and be best buddies with somebody. Certainly there's a lot of smart VCs that are out there, but the model is broken. Well, the model is broken, and it's going to require new VCs and new venture models and new approaches. So going after the old existing guys to educate them is going to be very difficult because this is so new. Even when I talk to people that have a vague understanding, I have to keep going back to Star Trek holodeck or Minority Report or holograms, which are all completely inaccurate, but they help kind of get the point across. So I think the best thing you can do trying to talk to a VC or an angel and educate them is try to talk to them in terms or models that they understand or experienced with. People, there's a lot of data and analytics and whatever out there for virtual goods. So, crazy billion-dollar industry, but it lends itself to augmented reality very easily. I'm going to start selling 3D flower pots as soon as possible. And that's not a far cry from selling a virtual flower pot in a Neopet game or whatever. Or think of other aspects. Look at instead of saying augmented reality, start talking about geospatial, locative, contextual things, and then slide in augmented reality kind of on page 4. So we have a long road to go, and the way the VC industry is now, it's kind of broken, it's kind of slow, and there needs to be a giant paradigm shift there.
I have only room for 1 more question, so I'm doing it in order of time. So, Michel Opland, where are you? Right there in the corner. You mentioned that people don't have accountability online. And in that perspective, what do you think of OpenID and Facebook Connect?
I think they're good, and I think they have a lot of potential, but does everybody here have either one or two of the both? Maybe half how long they've been out. Yeah, I don't know. I think there needs to be more there, but still, I can log onto my computer, I can log onto my ID, and I can walk away, and somebody else can sit down. There's still that little minor hole there, but they're going in the right direction. But the systems are not perfect yet.
Thank you, Robert.